anyone who protests this. John Suarez joins us right now, the Center for a Free Cuba Executive Director. Johnny, the thing about it, if the Cubans are embarrassed being caught on social media arresting someone as she's speaking, or going after leaders of this movement, also spotted by TV cameras, they have a funny way of showing it because they keep doing it. What do you make of this?
They keep doing it, and now videos have emerged with their police forces dressed in black shooting at unarmed protesters with bystanders screaming about the children. This is a brutal communist dictatorship. It's been in power for 62 years. It does not brook dissent. It does not recognize opposition parties. And it has thus far, from the partial information we're getting, arrested over 5,000 people, 200 of them that are identified opposition activists. And we know that many people have been killed. We know they've reported very small numbers officially, but with context in the island, it could be as high in the hundreds over the past, since Sunday.
But John, one of the things that I found curious is Cuba's willingness to consider, and I stress consider, allowing relief, food, supplies like that to come. A lot of Cuban exiles living in Florida, particularly around the Miami area, have offered to do just that. Do you think they're going to accept those boats and relief? Because the fear is, at least on the part of many in the government in Cuba, that they'll also take back, Cubans seeking asylum in the United States.
Well, I think first and foremost, the humanitarian impulse in this community was demonstrated last year when Rosa Maria Payá and the Cuba Decide initiative gathered tons of food and medicine and sent a freighter over to Cuba that made it to the port. And that aid was denied by the Cuban government. They have, over the past 2 years, tried to shut down independent channels to get assistance to people. That's why this social explosion took place on Sunday. They've shut down the paths for Cuban mules who traditionally have traveled to the Dominican Republic, to Panama, and to other countries, including the United States, and brought back food and medicine to sell in the black market and gray markets in Cuba. The communists sought to monopolize that and control it through the government stores controlled by the military conglomerate Gaesa. And typical communist organization, it was a disaster. There was less food, less medicine, and people were suffering more. The reason for shutting down the travel was the pretext of COVID, but they kept travel open from Russia and India that had worse cases, and there have been outbreaks of COVID-19 due to these tourists, and that's also driving the anger in the population.
John, the message from the administration is you're not welcome here. Don't risk your lives going on a boat or something, assuming you can get into the United States. You're not welcome. Maybe they're hearkening back to the experience under Jimmy Carter in 1980 when Fidel Castro simply emptied jails across the country and let those come to the United States.
I need to correct you, Neil.
Do you think that's a legitimate
hold on,
concern?
let me just say something. I need to say something very specific. He did not empty jails. He specifically, line item by line item, selected murderers, psychopaths, and rapists to come to the U.S. He was very careful not to release political prisoners in 1980. His bodyguard described how Fidel Castro personally did that.
Do you think there's a risk of that this time, John? Do you think that there's a risk of that this time?
There's always a risk with this type of regime to engage in actions that harm the United States. Last time with the Obama opening, how did it end up? 40 diplomats with brain damage at the embassy in Havana. And a problem that is now extended around the globe because it started in Cuba, but now it's spread to Russia, China, and other places with American diplomats being harmed. This is an outlaw regime. It is a regime that advocates terrorism, that sponsors and trains it throughout Latin America with the FARC, the ELN, in the Middle East with strong relations with Hezbollah and Hamas. So they are capable of anything. Today, they are in Venezuela. Their troops and their intelligence officers torturing and killing and raping Venezuelans. Their intelligence officers are also in Nicaragua, assisting Daniel Ortega fortify his dictatorship there. This is a regime that seeks to destabilize democracies in the region, and they are fundamentally hostile to the United States and its just interests.
So how does this end? Your thoughts?
How does it end? That depends on the democracies in the region and the international community. There needs to be a very strong and clear message, first recognizing the regime for what it is. The Soviet Union and Eastern Europe are freed in part because Ronald Reagan recognized that it was an evil empire. What is in Havana is an evil regime. It is not a Cuban government. It is a regime that does not recognize the sovereignty of Cubans, that is murdering Cubans just for merely speaking out and calling for freedom. The administration had a good first message. They need to strengthen it. They also need to go through the multilateral institutions, have resolutions on Cuba at the UN, at the OAS, set up the Magnitsky sanctions targeting those officials ordering the killing of Cubans today so they don't have their family members doing shopping sprees in New York, like happened when Alan Gross was taken hostage a few years ago, and the people that locked him up had their kids shopping at Macy's not too far away from your studios. That's unacceptable, and it should not be repeated, especially now with what's happening on the ground in Cuba.
All right, I want to keep a close eye on it, and would love to have you back, John, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We'll see how this unfolds. It's still very, very early. John Suarez, the Center for a Free Cuba. He's the executive director